Hello, happy Monday, September 28th, 2020. How are you? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. You know, it's gotten a little bit of an Indian summer going on here now. It's a little
ridiculous.
warm. I know. It was getting cool out, and it felt like the fall, and now it feels like we're back into
July.
Sticky August weather or July weather. Correct. Yeah. So, all right. So let's start on a Monday. This day in history, September 28th, 1928. Sir Alexander Fleming discovers penicillin when he notices a bacteria-killing mold growing in his laboratory. Soon, Howard Florey and Ernst Chain isolated the active ingredient, allowing the miracle drug to be developed in the 1940s and brought to the masses. Okay, 1939, Poland is divided between the Nazis and Soviets. 1958, France ratifies a new constitution. And here's something right up your alley. 2008, SpaceX launches the first private spaceship, the Falcon 1.
Wow.
All right, and today's birthdays.
The first
1,
private spaceship.
Yeah, pretty sick.
That is sick.
And,
I love that.
1820, Frederick Engels, who was a socialist who collaborated with Karl Marx on the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital. 1901, ladies and gentlemen, Ed Sullivan was born. 1934, Brigitte Bardot. And 1938, Ben E. King, who sang songs such as Stand By Me and Rose in Spanish Harlem. Now, I just wanted to quickly bring up two things that were brought to my attention since we just passed September 11th a few weeks ago. There was a former police officer from the 75th Precinct who a friend of the show, Don, had worked for. And check her name here. I believe it was Jennifer Abramowitz, but I'm going to double check. Let's see. Yes, Detective Jennifer Abramowitz died of a 9/11 related cancer, and she was one of the first responders at the World Trade Center bombings. Also, Sunday, I just wanted to say, pay my respect to all mothers who have lost a son or daughter in service to the United States. It was the Gold Star Mother's Day, and that's for any mother who lost a son or a daughter who was serving in the armed forces. So, very sad.
Rest in peace.
Yes, very sad. And, condolences. I mean, there's nothing no amount of money, no amount of sympathy could ever replace the loss of a child, and it's just the worst, most horrific thing that could happen to somebody, and I'm very sorry to all those mothers. It's just... it's horrible.
It is. So.
Now, you brought up a good point. We were talking about, if you don't mind me bringing this up into
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what people are talking about.
Yeah. So, you had mentioned about, Trump's taxes and what he had paid in taxes. And, we kind of, we're getting to a point where, it's annoying when, I lean more to the right. There's no question about that. And I am... So, to me, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for it, but Trump is the better candidate in my opinion. And I think that it's one of those things where you're picking your poison. Look, human beings are flawed. This idea that whoever's running for the president is going to be, ideally you want somebody who is a sterling candidate, who doesn't have any issues with taxes and race, all that stuff. Absolutely. But somebody, especially like a Donald Trump in the private sector and business, there's any business that the government wants to go into. Me being a former business owner, I could tell you, they will find something. If they want to go into your business and they want to make a money grab, or they want to, for whatever the reason, you rub somebody the wrong way, there is not a business in this country that the government cannot go into and find something wrong. But I was watching, to illustrate this point as far as picking your poison for the candidates, I was watching an interview. It was an old Howard Stern interview where he had this golfer, John Daly. Do you know who John Daly is?
I saw that actually.
Oh, you did? Okay. It was an old interview.
Yeah,
It had to be about 10 years old. But this guy is...
Looks like it was from like 96.
Yeah, it does. It actually does. Could be even older than 10 years. Real character, the guy. I mean, I remember him in high school. He was, drinking beers and, eating M&Ms and guzzling coke and smoking cigarettes on the
Big-
golf
Big
course.
Macs.
He was a real like
Slob.
he was, but he was like, you know what, for he just was like a real down home. He was born in Arkansas,
nobody cares.
regular guy. During the interview, he was smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer. It was 8 a.m. He had a Heineken because they offered it to him. But the point is,
No different than a golf course.
what do you mean? Yeah, you're right.
That's what they
you're
do.
right. It's and he was saying that it's a leisurely sport. There was a rumor that it was like 18 shots of whiskey. When they were done with the bottle of whiskey, these first guys that discovered golf, they were saying, "Well, that's 18 drinks. The bottle's empty. We'll just make it 18 holes." That's a
I have
rumor.
a lot of time spent in the various
Yeah,
golf courses.
so you know,
There's
but-
probably not a heavier drinking crowd
Sure, then golfers.
than country club people.
Well, this guy, John Daly, they were going through his life, and his life has been all over the tabloids, especially back in the 90s. And what was interesting was they kept comparing him to Tiger Woods, and they kept saying, "Wow, you're friends with Tiger Woods." Yeah, some people like him are just they stay out of trouble, they do the right thing. And Robin kept chiming in how sterling of a reputation a guy like Tiger Woods has, and on and on and on. And then I noticed the comments started. Wow, little did they know what Tiger was doing. And it's like, this is a lot. The people who you really think are perfect, or who you think have the best marriage or have the best lives, or these people are just like everybody else, and they're flawed in their own way. So for me,
Yeah, but
go ahead.
the government collecting tax from someone isn't a
Right.
that's a government.
Without
not
that,
a person
that's
who's
I
flawed.
get it. But my point is that no matter what you're looking at, no matter how big, how small, there is never going to be a perfect person. So for myself, I'm only speaking for me.
Yeah.
And I don't tell anybody else. I don't want to be told what to do, and I don't tell anybody else what to do.
But that brings me. That's why
But
for
can
you
I-
in particular, though,
Yeah.
I just want to say
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
You don't like when you're taxed and that tax goes to like certain institutions, right? Like it annoys you,
Right.
Because you feel like you're bearing the brunt of paying
Correct.
tax dollars.
Mhm.
And we've had this conversation
Yes.
many times.
Right.
Well, when very wealthy people pay $750 in
Right.
income tax, that's why your taxes are so high.
That's
I just wanted to say
yes,
that. And
but
then
that's
carry
not
up.
the only reason my taxes are high.
It,
My
well, it would
taxes-
definitely probably
Yeah,
take some of the breath off.
Absolutely, but I also don't know for sure. And I'm not a macro accountant. I don't know for sure that's all he paid. Just because somebody said
In
that,
federal,
I get
this
it. But
is-
I'm just saying, like, I still would like to. But with that being said, I would take that into account. Then I would take into account the rest of his negatives, which are plenty. Then I would take into account all of Joe Biden's negatives, which are plenty. Then I would take in the positives about each person and the positives about, both, like I said, both of them. Then I would compare the two. And that's how I would weigh it out. So for me, is that
so
something?
in other words,
Go ahead.
though, like
Go ahead.
and this is the point you raised before too.
Yeah.
It's true. This is the two choices we have.
Right. And
That's-
it's unfortunate.
that
To
really
me,
is.
to me, all that shows is the sorry state of American politics when those are the two candidates that we're carting out there. And I think this rhetoric on both sides where there's this love of Trump to the point that it's nauseating.
Well,
because-
people they can't hear anything negative
Correct.
the guy did. It's like he's this gilded,
Correct.
and obviously my support is more towards him as well. But I really am deeply troubled by
Absolutely.
that. That was
Absolutely.
like that's a huge one for me.
Absolutely.
Because
and it
you know
should be.
something, you shouldn't be the leader, and because you're the leader.
Good point.
But you know what the other point is that this didn't happen just now. There was some other guy who was president then.
Right.
It's an institutional governmental problem.
Without a doubt.
It's not like Trump made the tax code.
You're absolutely correct. And I think that, again.
Obama was president.
Yeah. Well,
And this is federal tax.
right. Look, that's.
It's crazy to me.
I'm
that-
not somebody, who.
I bet New York State, I guess he was probably paying at that time tax to New York State.
Sure.
I don't know if he lived, I just don't know, but I think he did.
I think he has multiple
places that he has to pay state
yeah,
tax.
because he lives in different, wherever his
I'm sure New
first
York was hitting him
residence
over the
is.
head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know again, like I said, for me to comment on Trump's taxes without knowing everything, it's foolish because I don't
Well,
like
you
to.
can have an opinion on it.
I do, but I have to read it. I'm just going on what you tell me.
This is headline news on
All right,
every
well,
main.
I get it.
Everything.
I get it. But like I said, to me, I haven't looked at it yet today, so I have to go through it. But I also would like to look at everything else that's going on, with his taxes. And to me, as I said, I weigh it out, and that's how I make my determination. I wouldn't be surprised, and I've never made it where I don't
I'm
think
sure
I've,
it's much more common than just
absolutely.
Trump, So.
But I don't think I've ever came out and said, Trump is this, Trump is a guy. Like, I don't feel that way. I just feel like, to me,
He's funny for sure.
to me, it's like, but to any election is, you're picking your poison. You're picking, because human beings they're all flawed. And,
I really don't think it makes a difference at this point. Who's president?
That's a good point too. That's a good point. A lot of people
like
feel
all this
that way.
violence that's going
Sure.
on is under Trump's presidency.
Correct.
So it's like kind of an interesting question when they pose, would you feel safe in Biden's America?
Right.
But the trouble's happening now.
Well,
I know that it's not from him.
yeah, no, you're right. Look,
But it's like
there's nothing that you're saying
we're
that is
totally
incorrect.
controlled.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, though, is like, again, that's why to me it just comes down to weighing it out and picking my poison. Because even so, like when you look at these things, somebody had put up social media is just like a garbage dump of like everybody's political opinions and garbage. But somebody had put up all of these, Aunt Jemima and all the other things that they're trying to do away with, the names of products. Were these racist under Obama also, or was it?
Yes, that's true.
But
I've heard that.
I'm just saying. Look, and it is progression. Yeah, they might have started to think so. I get it. But my point is, these guys, human beings they're not perfect, and especially in this day and age, it is going to be very hard to find a sterling candidate that has never done anything. But you got to weigh it out. Taxes are a huge issue. It's a huge issue.
I just don't see how it's set up the right way. It's just not.
Yeah, that's,
I believe in a progressive tax. That's one of the liberal ideologies I think that I have, is that I think the more you make,
the more you
should pay. Because why should someone who makes what I earn and less, and yourself, have to pay the biggest chunk of taxes in the entire country?
Well, I think that it's
especially for someone like yourself who can't stand taxation.
Well, it's not that I don't.
It's not that you don't mind paying the taxes.
Listen, don't put words in my mouth.
No, I'm not. But I've known you for 27
yeah,
years,
but
and I know what
it's
bothers
not that
you.
I said that I can't stand. I recognize the need for taxation.
Absolutely.
I just think that when people don't pay taxes that are capable of paying taxes, like that's an instance. Yeah, to me that's a horrible thing, and I think that where the tax dollars are spent, those are my issues. It's not, but the
me
country,
as well.
the country can't run without taxation. It can't.
But do you not support progressive tax, or do you? I'm just asking these crazier questions today. Don't take it personal.
I'm not. It's nothing wrong with asking. Those are good issues to raise.
Because it's intense.
I think that
it's crazy.
I think that those, in certain instances, it is. I think it's a good thing. But
I'm not saying also put the squeeze on the rich.
That's my point. It's like there has to be, and it's very hard. It's very hard to make.
I feel like 35% is that number that's always talked about.
Well, it's very hard though, because you know what the issue is too, is that
it's a lot of money to take though.
To a person who makes $30,000 a year, okay, they're going to look at somebody who makes $200,000 a year and think, you're rich, you could pay for anything. You got the money. Like when guys worked for me, they would look at my life and they would think, and I did this while I worked for somebody when I was coming up before I opened up a business. I'd look at my boss and I would think, he could afford it. He could do this. He could afford it. He could afford it. And then what happens is, and then my boss said to me, he said, well, I'll tell you, the more money you make, the more expenses you have.
Right.
Because you're not just making more money for the sake of why do people make more money?
For personal gain.
And to enjoy more things in life. to possibly have more kids, to treat your kids better, to buy a bigger house. I mean, the first thing I did when I made more money was I moved from one neighborhood to
and
a
had
better
a lot
neighborhood.
more kids.
Right. So my bills consequently went through the roof compared to what they were. So,
but that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I'm saying, like, so to somebody who sees what I'm making, and compared to what they're making, they might think, wow, you could afford to pay, but they don't realize I'm in the same boat I was when I was making $30,000 a year.
But those were all personal choices.
They were, but why? Because I decided to open a business, I put my own money into it.
Right.
And your mother we put our own money into it, and we sacrificed a lot of things to open a business. I dealt with a lot of shit.
Right.
I had to deal with the law. I had to deal with everything.
But that's the same argument that I have for police when they join the police department. You know what you're signing
Correct.
up for.
But that doesn't necessarily mean when I do that, I'm playing devil's advocate.
I hear you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, because
we don't agree on a lot, and some things we don't.
But I'm not
agree.
saying
It's
I
fun to
disagree with you. I'm just trying to point out, like,
Yeah.
what the argument could be from the other side.
Yeah.
And because I've been on both sides. So when I was a teacher, I felt a certain way, and then when I was a business owner, But my point is that it was a choice, but when I opened the business, that was a choice. I sacrificed to do that. But then somebody who chooses not to sacrifice the way I did, why then should I have to cover their tax or the amount of tax? That's not like, it's because I sacrificed, you choose, okay, you made your choice not to. So let me enjoy the wealth of my sacrifice that comes with the sacrifice.
What was the sacrifice that you made, would you say?
Time.
Okay.
I got locked up.
Stress.
Right. I got locked up because as the boss, even though it was proven I did nothing wrong, at the time, the guy who takes the hit,
Right,
the owner of the company.
Sure.
So, dealing with the dregs of society on a daily basis that I would never be around unless I had to, anything. I mean, anything when you own a business, it's like, even when there was no money coming in, if somebody had a bad week, I had to go to the bank, take out of my personal account, made sure they got paid. That was, and then I wouldn't take a check. That was the personal sacrifice,
Right. So
with that, I could have stayed making less money and then not had to have, I could have just kind of, So for me, I'm just saying, like, somebody who makes more money, I see the argument. If I never made that kind of money as a boss, I would never get the argument. Until you're in that position, you can't see it. And that's my point. When I was, let's say I never opened a business, I could totally understand the point of view you're bringing up. And I would, but it's with people, unless you're walking in somebody's shoes, you just can't. That's why it's complicated.
Well, also, if you're walking on the sidewalk, pushing your groceries home from the corner store up there, like the argument really can go both ways.
Absolutely,
I
but
mean,
that's
like,
my
people
point.
sacrifice their time working as well.
Without a doubt. But you know what you're getting into also.
Same as if you open a business.
Right.
You actually know less of what you're getting into.
But I'm saying, like, I'm not going to make a lot of money. I'm going to have a tough life, but I might not have to do, if this place goes down or gets in trouble,
right.
I'm going to go home at the, right. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's always,
That's the risk of entrepreneurship, though.
It is. But when you take on a risk for reward.
Right. Of course.
But
otherwise, there's no reason to do it.
But then if I'm getting taxed through the nose, and then that reward becomes less and less, and then what happens is...
but the argument then
you get less
all the way up the
entrepreneurship.
ladder, though, and then you have the billionaires saying, what the hell?
Right. Without a doubt.
Like, it has to be looked at
But what
with
I'm saying
common
is
sense.
you also have to take... Like, I'm just saying it's a multi-level problem. This is not a problem that's as easy as saying, do I believe in it? Well, yeah, sure.
I don't believe when you have your first job or second job, or if you're just a low-income earner who makes $14 an hour and gets only 35 hours a week.
Correct.
Because the company refuses to give you overtime. I'm
not disagreeing with that.
You should have to pay like 38%.
No,
they like go above that 35% number.
Right. I think it's a tough thing, and I also
it's disgusting.
I also think the issue was tough where there's a big difference between...
It's equally as disgusting as when people live on welfare for their entire lives. It's like they're both gross situations.
My point in this is not that I disagree with you. My point is that this is such a complex
Who
issue.
should decide it, would you say?
That's why government it's good and it's bad, because you have a lot of different, you have the three branches that are going to decide on these things, but then it gets weighed down because right. That's, but the thing with taxes, it's one of the most complex issues.
It's ridiculous.
For instance, your grandfather brought up a great point. When I was looking to invest in some stock the other day.
Right.
And his response to me was, just don't forget because it was like low risk, low gain.
Sure.
So he goes, that's good, but just don't forget you're paying the 15% capital gains or whatever on it, so you're getting taxed on the money you make on it. He goes, but I'll tell you, if the Dems get in office, that 15% jumps up to 35% if they had their druthers. So it's like you're risking your money in the stock market. But like what happens is when but that's a risk you take. Yeah, but then what happens is if people stop investing, if people stop opening businesses because taxes are too high, that's a lot of jobs that are not created. That's a lot of taxes now that are not collected. Like,
from what I've read, the 1950s had some of the highest taxes. Have you read that before?
No. I believe it. I'm not disagreeing. I just, I've never really. Taxes are not something.
Check that out if
I will.
you feel like it, but I've read into it a little bit. And in the 1950s, taxes were high.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Grandpa Al would actually know something about that.
Yeah, he knows everything about taxes because of his business. But
a lot of businesses formed in the 50s, though.
Yes, they did. But it was a lot cheaper to live.
Could actually flip the switch.
Let me also just say, with that though, there was also a lot of one-income households back then because it was a lot easier. Like a lot of women stayed home in those days because families could afford to.
Right.
Things were it was
Why
the 50s.
Could they afford to though?
Because it was just cheaper to live.
Now?
It's a complex issue. I don't know. I don't know all the answers.
This is the problem, though. Like, some people...
But it was an interesting point somebody brought up. Like, back in those days, the women were home, and then the caller was like, wait,
do you not think it's worth it? I'm going to just pose questions
to you. Yeah, go ahead.
You.
Fire away.
Okay, so in certain... let's use Sweden. I know we're not Sweden.
I'm going to play devil. Like, what I'm going to do is...
Just give me your honest answer. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
Okay, so in Sweden, when a mother is pregnant with their child, they get maternity leave. They get paid, and the father, I believe, gets a month of paid time off to spend time for the first month with the mother. They pay for that through their taxes.
Okay.
Are you open to some kind of an idea like that, or would you rather not have that?
Well, I think that a good thing.
That's a specific thing.
Yeah, the first step, I think, would be, if that is indeed what they're doing in Sweden, the first step would be to look at a country who's had that, look at the results, look at the statistics, and then go from there. Like, if it's a good thing, if it's...
But yes or no? Would you want that or not want that?
Would I want to have...
Do you think it would be good for the mother to have, like, the
I
final
think, truthfully, in this country,
I
think anything that will allow parents to spend more time parenting their child is a good thing.
I think it's like there's so many better things we could be doing.
Look, if tax dollars are going to de Blasio's wife
to
open some fucking God knows what she's doing with the millions of dollars, I'd rather have that go to my wife.
Sometimes it's better to have those institutions because then possibly it would mean less money for the politicians. I don't know.
I don't, But it's coming into one guy, he's giving it to his wife. I mean, I don't know. But to me...
That would be a worthwhile program.
To me, families in this, I think the number one issue is even if parents divorce or separate or whatever, you can still love that child and be a part of the child and work together to make sure. So I think anything that will allow, especially
a comfortable birth,
especially a mother, because in the old days, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but in the old days, women were typically the ones who were home, and I think that
depending on what society you are speaking of.
Well, I'm speaking of American society.
Okay.
And in American society, women were the ones who were home. And I just think that is, I mean, it's crucial. And I just think that the breakdown of that is part of the issues that we're having in this country. Is the
A lot of countries are doing fine without that, though. A lot of countries, like a lot of European nations, like Western European nations, they typically have like a common sense system for mothers giving birth, and the women are able to do that, have their baby, have their time off, and continue working and do what they want to do and be equal.
I need to look at, for me to just say, okay, I agree with that. Like, too many people do that, and then they're just okaying things that, like, I'd have to really look. I don't ever agree or disagree with anything until...
I think it's also just their culture there. It's probably been that way for a long time.
So a lot of those houses, look, let's take Italy, because the grandmother lives in the house. So there's always a family member that's home with that kid. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a difficult thing for me to just say. Great. What?
That's great.
Yes, that's my point.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're doing so well. It's difficult for me to just say yes. I don't know financially.
I'm just saying, though, like, it seems like culturally there's a lot less... you can't even really debate anything anymore, because if I say that they're more tranquil over there, you would say, well, there's more terrorist attacks over things like that.
No, I would just, if you would say something, I would say, okay, that's your point of view. Let me look at, like, I never take a person's word. I got to look at it for myself.
But you haven't heard any of this before?
About what?
About any of these European nations? Like,
I've heard a lot of things about European nations.
A lot of, like, conservatives point the finger. Socialist, 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 socialist. But if my tax dollars were going to something...
I've heard a lot of
I'm
good
not saying
things.
you, by the way. I'm just saying, like, that's how we are.
I've heard a lot of good things about Scandinavia, the way they do things over there. But I've also now started to hear other things trickling in.
What?
Like, due to the fact that they're allowing certain progressive things to happen in the country, and I can't... It's not right in front of me. I'm just saying I've seen I've digested information that has come in to the opposite, where it's saying now, because of some of these things we're allowing, we're loosening the rein on things. Now the crime rates are going up. Like, there's always an action and a reaction. So what I'd have to do is, another important thing is, you can't just look at something short term and say, see, it works. You got to look at something over the course of years and say, okay, is it working? Is it not working? So let's say Sweden's done that for 50 years, what you said before. Perfect. That's at least several generations of people. So let's see what the results are. So, but I think, like I said, for me, anything that's going to support the family structure in a productive way.
So that would mean women not working, though, for you? I'm just wondering.
No, I think even if a woman, I think, to me, the best thing that ever went on, choose which parent.
True. It's difficult here, though.
Look, if I had a way to have money coming in, I would love to raise all my kids.
And be home? Sure.
And be home. I would. But unfortunately...
I think one thing you see in this country as well is, like, kind of like frown upon the stay-at-home dad.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
And it's, like, laughable to many. Sure. And I think that's a huge problem, too, because it makes those are all tangled up, too, in the divorce laws and things like that, especially in New York State. It's designed, now it's slowly changing, but, I mean, I've seen a lot of guys, they gotten divorced, and it's like, they wanted the kids, and because the mother wanted them, the judge says, nope, should go with the mother. Well, why? I don't know.
For me, I always thought, I thought the kids should be with their mother because she's a good mother. I trusted her.
It depends on that, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing. But I'm just saying, like, let's say your mother wanted to work and wanted me to be home. Look, if we could afford it and that's what we decided, then I would do that. It's just, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I just think that anything that, now another issue, though, is people can say, well, that's what welfare does. And then you see people taking advantage of that system where they're home, they're not working, but they're not raising their kids. They're just out, like they're blowing their money on chains and,
Well, that's also, like, true, but also, like...
It's just
it's hard to...
It is. But I just think that, anything that supports the family structure in this country, I would think the money, if I'd have to put it into taxes, and because it would benefit me. I don't see
in these socially progressive areas, though, like Italy or France.
Yes.
I study a lot about France. Yes. That's one country I could tell.
I'm going to pose a question to you when you're done.
Okay. I don't see like France. Let's just use France as an example because I know it better.
Yep.
there's not like an attack on the family there, but they're also they have their problems. They have the yellow shirt riots and stuff in Paris. They burn down buildings and stuff.
Yep.
They have economic issues. But from what I understand, family's still number one.
It's like that in a lot of European countries.
Right. I don't and that and France is arguably more. I don't know.
So what's the
The point is, like, I don't understand why it seems like the family's under attack in this country, but I don't see that issue too many other places.
Well, when you read, for instance, when you read the manifesto of BLM, one of their main things were, and they have since taken it out of that manifesto.
I know,
since
I
it
heard about that.
Was to do away with the family structure. I don't know why.
I don't know why. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
to me, that's crazy.
These are supposedly socialist, communist, like whatever the hell they are.
Yeah,
They're just like several.
They're
different
outcasts.
things. I think they're ridiculous. You know
so
that.
Do I.
But like, I just think it's curious that.
But I don't know why they think
in
that
these liberal countries.
Yeah, you know why? Because these people, they're outcasts.
Right.
The people that
they
started
hate families because they're
because
jealous.
Their families were
Right.
fucked up. Their fathers weren't there for them.
Yeah, but
so
nobody has a perfect family.
No.
And I still value, like,
Sure.
we had problems and
absolutely
we had
everybody,
whatever the hell you could think of. And I don't like despise family as a result of family
My
issues.
parents fought when I was growing up. I mean, they had issues like everybody else, but you know what? I knew my parents loved me, and that's all. And and I'm very thankful. I mean, I see a lot of people
in
that
certain ways, like I see more evidence. I know, like, I don't really care what anyone thinks, and just like you shouldn't either.
Right.
You're free to think what you want.
Yeah.
I just think that it's kind of crazy, but like the perfect blend of conservatism as well as socialism might be a good recipe if it could be done right.
Sure.
I mean, I think we already have that here to some degree. The post office is a social. I mean, anything that requires tax dollars, correct?
Yeah. Well, I think look,
it's just not. It's like so. America worldwide has this reputation of like, and no matter what side, and you can attest this, like the left doesn't want to be told what to do,
right?
And neither do
the
right
extremes
side
of both sides are where the problems lie.
America's a very freedom-loving country. Right. It just depends on what your version of freedom means.
Correct. But that's the problem. Is like. Believe me, I see the rhetoric where it's like the Trump rhetoric. It's like, to me, like I said, I think he's the better candidate. That's it. But
I agree.
Do I love this guy where he's the end all be all for me? No way. But I
also know he's not the worst guy in the world,
right?
As they say,
right. That's the point.
With that being said, though. And I really hope that you look into this tax thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I really need an honest answer out because it pisses me off.
My honest answer would be if let's say he did that, due to the fact that Kamala Harris, to me, I do not want her anywhere near the office. Sure. So I would still vote for Trump.
Anyway.
Sure. But I will look into it. But I'm just saying, I don't want that woman anywhere near the office.
But I also don't blame Trump for not paying the money. I blame the government over the years for developing a system that caters to billionaires and millionaires.
Well, I don't think it necessarily. He probably somehow. The problem is too. These guys get the top accountants that are able to exploit the laws, and who knows? He might not have followed the law. He could have broken the law. I just don't know. I don't know enough about it right now. But I would still, if that was the issue, and it's not because I love Trump. It's nothing to do with that. It's just I would still vote, and it's not because he's a Republican.
It just seems to me, though, that time and time again, millionaires and billionaires have the means and the luxury to figure out how to make off with all their loot. Just like you could say time and time again, the bums find a way to get their peanuts from Social Security. But the difference is someone's getting peanuts and someone's flying away on a private jet.
There are people who worked for me that have said to me, "You're rich, you can do this, you can do that." I paid through the nose in taxes.
Right.
And
but that's my point. You're not rich. You know that you're not rich. The government knows you're not rich, by the way. The government knows the difference between you
Yeah.
and a real estate guy
Yep.
in Manhattan, for example.
But being rich to the guys that worked for me, I was.
But that's not the guys who are making your
Compared to
tax code.
Trump, no, I understand, but I'm saying, you know, it's people's views of what you're saying will be different depending where they are on the social
Well,
ladder.
how do we vote on this? That's my other issue with this democracy.
You
is
look
that,
at
like,
you look at the candidates, you find out what their views are on taxes, and that's how you vote. Whoever's closest to what you think, it's probably not going to be right on
in
the
the
nose.
past 30 years, right? We've
Yeah.
had Republican, Democrat,
Yeah,
sort of.
yeah.
Have you seen like a giant like jump in taxes, like since you can remember paying taxes, or has it been more like this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
Is it the same thing, different
my
name?
taxes jumped. The only time they jumped
Sure.
was when I went from being a teacher to being
being
an
a-
entrepreneur. That was when they jumped. But
So in
and-
other words, the tax code really hasn't changed much in the
no,
past
it's
30
been.
years. I don't know. That's why I'm
Yeah,
asking
no,
you.
it's been. There's been changes. It's since I've been working. They've been in the past. There's been ups and downs.
So
and
really just
people
the
complained when
financial-
Reagan was in office. There was issues with taxes. I wasn't working then, so I can't really
Yeah.
speak to that. But in my lifetime, it was due to financial gain that my taxes jumped up. But
So that means through the years between Republicans and Democrats, the difference is
here and there during the Democrats, while they were in office, my taxes were higher. That I know for a fact. Was it higher to the point that it put me in the poverty line? No.
No. I
But
mean,
it was
that would be
right,
ridiculous.
Right, but it was definitely went up. So you
and
know.
there's nobody you can grieve your taxes to that will make a
Well, you
difference.
can grieve your property taxes, which I did, and I got a slight break. But still, if you would compare my taxes on the house and to 99% of the country, they would say, "Holy shit!"
But that's also because you're living in the most expensive area on Long Island by choice.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I was able to grieve it, and I did get a portion knocked off. That's how you do it. But as far as like the overall, what you got to do is
Property
you get,
tax is a freaking weird one.
Sure
Same
is.
with automobile taxes,
Sure
like
is.
paying, like some states, like Connecticut, you got to pay tax on your car every year.
That's why my parents were smart, and your grandparents, they bought in a good area where the taxes were very low,
Right.
because the industrial park sucked up the taxes for that area. Part of
Brilliant.
they were offering people low taxes to come to Hauppauge in the old days, because and that's how the industrial park was able to be created, because they kind of pitched that. Look, if we come in that area, we're going to suck up a lot of the taxes for the residents.
And it's like no one even
Now,
knows
my
it's
question
there.
to you is this: where
Sure.
do you stand on taxes for education?
Taxes for education, well, that's a tricky one too, because I'm not necessarily a fan of the school system to begin with. Just kind of like you. And
So, do you think higher taxes?
specifically, like, what do you mean?
Well, let's say an area like where I grew up, which was called the Bird Section in Hauppauge.
Right.
Okay. When I was a kid,
The bird cage.
there was tons of kids in that neighborhood. So, paying school tax was worth it for most of the residents, because they all had kids in school, and you were getting
Right.
lower class sizes. You were getting better technologies, like that type of thing. But what about the one old person that lives on the block that's
Should they
been there
have to
for
pay
30
this?
years?
Yeah, I know. That's a
That paid for the taxes when their kids were there, and like that's the thing with taxes. It's like that's why there's a battle. I remember when I was teaching.
that's a great point.
Right. That's my point. When I was teaching, like, these are things that when they say like with age comes wisdom, it's true, because I still don't know everything, but as I didn't know that or think about it in that way until I was teaching, and like, and I was paying, I had kids in school at that time, but I didn't really think about it as much till when I was teaching. We would have a meeting, we were trying to get the budget passed, and they're like, remember, when you call and you make the call, because they were having teachers call the towns to say, please pass the budget, the kids need this, and if you get an old person on the phone, pitch them extra hard, because they're not going to want to pay. So And then it's like, well, then they should move. Yeah, but they lived there. They were the first resident in that area. You know, so
Well,
it's
this is
like
the
it's a
problem
hard
is-
argument.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's my answer.
Yes.
Certain things in society we kind of all share,
Right.
like the fire department, the police department,
Yep.
the schools.
Right.
The old geezers probably had kids at one point.
Yes.
I don't want to say all of them,
Right.
but if you're,
Sure.
chances
Some.
are they did.
Yes.
And the kids benefited from the school system.
Yes.
I say make them pay. I know it's easier said than done when it's someone else's tax
And they're
dollars,
now they're retired and they're not working,
but they're on a fixed income.
which makes it harder to pay those taxes because they're not making any money. Social Security is peanuts, you know. And they're 80 years old, you know. It's like, what do
Well,
they
yeah,
do?
that's assuming they're like poor 80-year-olds, though.
I know, but in most cases, you know, it's not easy. When you get older,
If you have a child, I think it should be based on if you have a child that used the school system.
So now you've just totally changed. When you just said 5 minutes
If
ago,
you never had
make them pay.
If you never
Right.
had it, no, I'm not changing it. I'm just saying
Okay.
if you've never had a child
right.
that's used the school system, that should be an exemption. But if
So
you,
school taxes shouldn't be something that we all share.
we, there's things like exemptions, right?
Okay,
If
so-
you never used it,
Right. What about if you had kids in school 40 years ago?
doesn't matter. You used it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're entitled. I'm just asking.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
if you never use something, there's no reason why you should get stuck with the bill. That's
Sure.
a reasonable.
Sure.
But you live in the town, you use everything else. All of a sudden, schools where you want to cheap out, but yet everybody wants to see better schools.
An exemption's a good idea, I think.
If you've never had a child in the school system,
Yeah. No,
because
that's a
then you're
good-
taxing someone on something they never.
Sure.
Could, you know what I mean?
Sure.
There's no representation.
Gotcha. Okay. What about if you've... Yeah, it's like, I get it. I get that view.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. I just...
It's a hard pill for people to swallow, and it's
yeah.
not my money.
Yeah.
But I got to pay for it.
It's like...
I've never had a kid yet.
Right. Right. I just think it's, you know, it's a tricky...
It is. I
The
know.
problem is that's where people make off with exemptions, and when you say people that are really wealthy, they find those loopholes to kind of, you know, to get through, and it's like,
Well,
you know,
I feel like if you had a kid in any, unless it was
I get it.
like
I don't
private
think it's a
school
bad
that you
view.
paid
I
for
don't-
the
you know.
whole time
Sure.
anyway,
Sure.
but then you're living in the community with a child and you're choosing. That's another hot button issue. Is
It's tough.
Yeah,
But do you see why my point is?
It's
you see
difficult.
why? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Sure.
it's hard to just say I believe in this, I believe in that. You know, it's hard.
but nobody wants to defund. Like I mean, like it's
Yeah.
like.
It's difficult. But that's why there's, you know,
Like the answer, like the counter answer to defunding the police is give them more funding.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone would want to throw. Well, again, you have 50% that say defund, 50% that say fund it.
right.
Maybe it's less. Maybe there's a little margin that says leave it how it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just funny what people want to throw money at, what people want to argue over.
It's
what,
hot button issues.
It's crazy.
It's what affects you or me. You know, like
There needs to be a little bit more of a common ground.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in private property. That will never change. The things like that, like your home, your block, whatever the heck, that's private property. That's your house. That's your kingdom. That's what you do. I believe in that. That's a huge part of what makes America America. And European nations, if they want to take your stuff with good reason, it's like 1, 2, 3, we got your stuff. And in America, we have eminent domain and stuff. So, but it's much more respected here, I think. But in the community, we all have to acknowledge that there's things that we share.
right.
The roadways,
Police.
the police department, the fire department, the school, which, by the way, is where voting is held.
Libraries. Yep.
Right, libraries. So, I think that's another problem is that, and the more division you get, the more arguments and squabbling you're going to have over.
School board meetings, you find some of the craziest arguments.
I bet.
Yeah. They used to be crazy. Sometimes.
Aren't they on public access a lot of times?
Sometimes.
Like Channel 13?
Uh-huh.
I think I've seen them.
Sometimes you have cops there. you know,
Right.
Yeah.
Because people get into fights.
Yeah. It gets that heated.
That's crazy.
Yep.
I've never partook in something like that.
Yeah. You should try
I
one
would check-
just to
yeah,
go,
yeah.
you know, because you're actually seeing democracy at work.
Right.
You know?
That's
It's
where it happens.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's the bare bones of democracy, is something like that, or a town hall meeting or something. Those are really, you want to stick your toe in the water with democracy. That's a good place to go.
See it work, yeah.
Yep.
A lot of times it's not as fun as you think.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's a lot of what we're doing right now.
Right.
You
That's
know.
crazy.
Yeah.
In other news, though, Trump's Supreme Court picks, she's
Yeah.
looking pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
mean,
how Nancy Pelosi was like, the religion's
she has
off
like
the table.
7 children or something.
And 2 of them are adopted from Haiti.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank God for that, to be
It's
honest.
funny, though,
because I don't want to hear anything about
racist
race.
rhetoric,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from the left still.
Still.
It's like,
What does somebody have to do to prove they're not racist
and then
in
Nancy
this country?
Pelosi's like, listen, don't talk bad about her religion because she's Catholic. And everyone's Nancy Pelosi's
So
Catholic.
that's off the right. She's gonna find
It
something.
was an actual, like, she like, bat signaled that.
She'll have to find something about this woman.
I wish there was a way, like a term for like being a conservative, but also believing in like a very fair tax code. It's difficult to. That's why it's difficult to have numerous parties in this country.
Independent, you're just not.
I guess,
you have
but
your own.
When's the last independent to win presidency? Do you know?
I don't know if there's ever.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't know either. I think there's been more Whig Party presidents than there has been independents.
But I'll tell you, it's, to me, I just can't take the extreme rhetoric on either side.
No.
To me, it's like
I know.
at that point they sound like buffoons, both of them.
And it's funny because
too
what
much.
it all really comes down to is
Yeah.
tax.
Yeah.
All the social issues. Every
Yes, it's all
issue
money.
that you could think of
It's all money.
is cash
Right.
money
Right.
that they steal from your pocket.
It all
It's
comes
crazy
down.
to-
That's
my argument
Yeah.
against the liberals, though, and I have this argument all the time because they're the people that say, screw the system.
right.
But then they want the system bigger and juiced up with a lot of cash.
I know.
That's why I still lean more towards the right.
Very hypocritical arguments.
Right.
There's a lot of them, and that's the thing. It's like you got to make sure when you're arguing something that that's why I always say I try not to jump, because you got to like make sure that you're consistent through all your views.
I agree.
And then, but
Well, you don't have to be. This isn't written in law. That you
no,
could
but I'm
believe-
just saying, like, if I say it's like, for instance, if I'm all for one thing, I got to make sure, though, that, like, I think it through. That
Sure.
way, it's like if somebody throws something at me, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, that just disproves like, I really try to think my stuff through. That's just, I've
as
always
you
been that
should.
way.
Well, being well thought out is smart.
Yeah, but I just think, to me, middle of the road. I just don't think, when I look at both sides, I do see a lot of mild Republicans. Democrats, I don't see as many mild Democrats. There are some, but I see way more radical Democrats than I used to. I feel like that party has gotten way more radical than it used to be.
It's going to come to a point where there's going to be this like radical sect that will be identifiable from
outside of the
Democrat Party.
It's going to have to, because it's going to wreck the
because
party.
the Democrats aren't going to want to hang
No.
around with them.
No, and you
'Cause they're
could
also
see
about
some.
the cheese.
You're starting to see some, even like the Spanish are
They're
Trump.
really struggling because
Yeah, but they're heading for Trump because the rhetoric that's coming from the radical part of the Democratic
They
Party,
hear about
they
the
don't
family
like it.
and it,
Right,
that scares them to
right,
death.
Right. So
When you're down at the dock, you know who comes? It's the Spanish families.
Right.
It's never like a one-person
No,
deal. They have
no.
everything their families included in.
Yeah, they're big on that. They're big on religion. They're big on
It's
families.
actually
you know.
it's nice.
It's nice.
It's terrible because oftentimes they're pretty big polluters.
Yeah.
On the fishing dock there. But
which goes against my. I hate that.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that.
and it's like but I can't really say it's just them.
Yeah.
But,
No, it's not. I'm sure it's not.
But oftentimes.
But damn, man, that drives me up a wall.
Especially in an estuary. I know it's like my key word. I always say that, but that's where 90%.
That's where everything bottles
spawns.
up. It's
Well,
gross.
also that's where the
starts, right? Yeah.
That's where life in the
Yeah.
oceans begin.
It's gross.
I was down there actually about a week ago, and I was looking in the water, and there were schools
Yeah.
of baby fish, baby bunker, and whatever you could think of.
Yeah.
So dense that it actually looked like it was like an oil slick.
Wow. Wow.
But in fact, it was billions
Billions of them.
of fish
It's crazy.
spawning and leaving the river.
Isn't it amazing though?
That's what
amazing.
drives me nuts when I see people ruin it.
It is, because to me it's like, you don't have to, like, I'm not this person who's like a hippy dippy green, but why litter? Why? Like, the earth is given so much. Why just can't you throw the fucking thing in the garbage, man? Why litter?
And litter's another progressive.
It's just, when you look
ladder,
at those
like,
islands and stuff, it's
Yeah.
like, it's heartbreaking to see that. It's like, God, man.
Like the poor man's litter
Yeah.
versus the mega company litter.
Ugh,
Like Exxon Valdez. That's litter.
that was awful.
That was awful. I don't think I was. Well, I wonder what year
No,
that
it was 89.
89, right?
Yeah.
When I took Oceans in high school, that was like a big.
That was huge. It was huge when it happened, and it's,
That's like as bad as Fukushima.
yeah.
Because
It was
Fukushima
a
traveled
terrible,
all the way
that was
here.
a terrible disaster. That had years of repercussions that's still being felt. It's awful. So,
It's.
no, pollution on the whole is just, to me.
I don't like noise pollution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like
Light pollution. Yep.
I don't like litter.
Yeah.
There's a new trend now where people have speakers on their cars facing out. And
I thought there was rule like laws.
people are just doing it now.
Yeah,
and,
they
you know
just
what I'm saying?
F the law, and then if they get pulled over, then it's the cops a dick.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah. That drives me up the wall, though, because I like birds.
Yeah.
I like wildlife, squirrel. Like, they run from that,
I also don't. I'll never understand the music that people listen to where it goes. It's like to the point where the car rattles and it distorts the music, where you don't even hear like the. What is like?
I don't know. I don't listen to that.
No, me neither. But I hear it all the time, and I don't get the point of that.
Every once in a while, I like to just, like, search Native American flute music.
Oh yeah, that's relaxing.
It's so relaxing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's, like...
Yep.
I listen to like blues and jazz
Sure.
and like all kinds of like and heavier stuff too, but I don't understand how people could listen to it either.
Yeah.
It seems so evil sounding.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah, I don't even. It's not even that it's rap or this or that. It's just when they have it to the. I like loud music, but when it's to the point where you're hearing the trunk rattle,
I know, it's
and it
crazy.
distorts the actual song. Like I never
I
understood
think
that.
it's the
That's not new.
Tiny
That's been
Pecker
around
syndrome.
Yeah, I think so too. It's,
That's pretty much anything that anyone does that's
I
overzealous
Yeah, I
and crazy.
guess.
It's
I
like
guess.
compensations.
guess. I always like the. I like loud music. I had a stereo in my car when I was younger. I got a system, but
Loud is loud, but
Yeah.
extreme is extreme.
Yeah, when it's like when you're driving by, you're setting alarms off and stuff. I don't know.
Even if you're on the highway,
Yeah.
you can hear. It's scary sometimes. Like someone would be behind you, and you don't know what it is. It
So
sounds
now
like
there's speakers facing out. Well, they're
From what
just
I've heard.
they're I mean you can
you're just a piece of garbage at that point.
and what it's people are gonna you can't have anything nice. People end up destroying it. Some guy's gonna run by it and just knife it or something or fender bender. All that type of stuff. It's like it's just more damage that you can have. It's not worth it.
So
Anyway.
on a lighter, funnier
Yes.
note, have you ever watched Donnie Brasco?
Yes.
Okay, do you know when Al Pacino's cooking him dinner at Christmas?
Yes, I do.
And he makes him coq au vin?
Mm-hmm.
I'm cooking that for dinner.
Nice.
Because I watched Donnie Brasco. I was like, you know what? That sounds like a good meal.
Good movie.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
It's interesting to see Johnny Depp play like a mobster type.
Yeah. Yeah. He
It's
was
a
great
little
as Whitey
difficult
Bulger.
for him. Yeah,
That-
he was better as
Yeah.
Whitey Bulger for
That
sure.
that was awesome. That was an awesome movie. So.
Al Pacino had some really good acting in Donnie Brasco.
Yes.
Underrated.
Yes.
Because he played a real, like, mobster who was kind of left behind.
Yes.
He did it so
Yes.
good.
He's truly
One of the
truly,
greatest
yeah,
of all time.
No question.
The Italians, man.
I even liked him in what's the Adam Sandler movie where
Oh, Dunkachino.
he's so funny.
Jack and Jill.
He's like, I
Everybody.
want to know you exist. Classic. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mom played that all the time, and it made me die laughing.
A lot of people who haven't seen The Godfather and seen his
Yeah.
performance in
Sure.
that,
Oh, it's phenomenal.
They did such a good job on his eyes.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
they made him almost black.
Yeah, he's like
I don't know how they did that, or if that's just
very
how he looks.
understated. Like you could see the anger. Like he kept like he was good with the anger, like simmering below the surface.
Yeah,
You could
and
tell
then
he
shooting
yeah,
the cop in the guy
yeah,
in the face.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
for
And- Or
sure.
when he'd yell at K, and he,
yep.
it's like he would just go from 0 to 10. Like he was a very good actor, very good.
Volatile explosions.
Yes, that's excellent. Carlito's Way. Did you ever see Carlito's Way?
I have not.
Oh, you never
Good one?
saw that?
No.
Oh, Thomas, you got to watch that.
Is that where he's? No, it's Serpico.
Yeah, no, you got to watch. You never seen Carlito's Way?
No.
Oh my, Sean Penn's in it.
I'm gonna check. I think it's on Netflix.
You got to watch it.
I think it's crazy. He was Scarface,
Yeah, great.
which is also like probably the most one of, if not
Glorified.
the most known movies
Yes,
around
yes,
the world.
Yes. Yep. That was an old remake. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was great in that. What's cool is he played a Cuban in that, and he played an Italian, and he's really not that there's too much difference, but
Very similar.
very. But he's phenomenal. But you gotta watch. And in Carlito's Way, he played another Spanish guy. But oh my God, that was like one of the 90. You had Bronx Tale, Casino, Goodfellas, Carlito's Way. Like that was one of those movies. It was right. It was 95.
What was the
I
movie
think.
where he plays a blind guy?
Oh, Scent of a Woman.
That was a good one too.
was
He's
great.
played in so many emotional roles
Yeah.
and so many
Oh,
strengths.
phenomenal.
You know what was even good? Him, Robert De Niro, and 50 Cent.
Yes.
I can't think of the name
I
of
don't
the
know. I
movie,
know. I saw
but they were
it, yeah.
detectives. And
He was
like,
in Heat with,
Yeah.
he's in a lot. You've got. I want you to
I'll
watch
check it.
Carlito's Way and then let me
I
know what
will.
you think of it. That was one of his best.
There's a really cool picture circulating I never saw before. It's
Yeah.
like Robert De Niro as Vito Corleone and Al Pacino standing behind
Yeah,
him. It's
yeah.
a real photo.
Uh-huh.
Man,
Yeah, great.
I heard that the lines when The Godfather came out to see the movie were like
Yeah.
days long in some cases.
Well, what's funny is I was listening to Michael Franzisi's interview, one of his interviews, and he was saying that the mob was looked at one way before the movie.
Right.
And then after the movie, he said, guys, all of a sudden, all the mobsters back in the day would like to keep it quiet. They weren't out in the open.
Yeah, they were omerta. They were
And
hidden.
then after The Godfather, they didn't mind so much if people knew who they were because it was like
the
glorified.
movie hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they would have actually stayed in the underworld,
Yeah.
they might have.
And apparently Joe Colombo was read the script of The Godfather. It was shown to him, and he
Really?
asked, please don't mention the word mafia or mob or one of those two words in the movie. I forgot which word he said, but do not mention that. And he actually, Coppola went along with some of his.
It's actually better that way because they probably
It was
never-
phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was a movie. That's a much different movie than
All they would say is
Goodfellas.
family.
Yeah, like you have the '90s mobsters movies, and you have the '70s mobsters movies,
Right.
which
Pretty
Godfather
cool.
1 and 2 were the '70s. There's a complete those are even the lighting in those movies the way it was
Yeah.
it's
I don't
just
believe it's capable in
Right.
today's day and age
No.
to make another
no
type of.
James Caan was in that. It was just what a Marlon Brando is what
Impossible
a movie.
to get that again.
What a movie.
You know what I thought was interesting about Donnie
wedding scene?
Brasco too? They put in this little thing at the pool
I
on the
forgot
day
to
that
mention that in the '90s. Yeah.
John Wayne died,
Mm.
and I was like, And then you could look up the day that John Wayne
Yeah.
passed away, and
Oh.
that's the time period they were
Yeah.
doing this 79,
Yeah.
78.
Yep.
I like that to know little.
Oh, it's great. I like that too. But yeah, you got to see. Carlito's Way was to me his last great gangster movie. Pacino's.
I like how they always had towards the end of Don Corleone's life, he would always have his oranges and his
Yeah,
wine.
yep. Or he put he went to the kid
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
fruit in his mouth. Yeah.
He was scary. If I
Marlon
was a kid-
Brando is great in that
something
movie.
else.
Phenomenal. He was only in his 40s in that movie.
Really?
Yeah. He put cotton balls.
I know, yeah.
And they dusted his hair gray, but he was in his 40s. Phenomenal actor. Look at an interview. There's an interview
Where
of
he's wearing
Marlon
a denim
Brando.
jacket?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I've
was
seen that.
made
That
when
was
The
the same
Godfather
time?
came out.
Wow.
So that shows you what kind of actor that guy is.
Right.
He had acting chops.
They
man.
had no CGI back then.
Right, like he was in his 40s. He was my age.
Acting like a
Like
70-year-old
a 70-year-old man. So, what an actor that guy was.
The
phenomenal.
set designs.
Well, you also said family. Like, that's the thing. Like, with that movie, it wasn't just glorifying the gangster
Not
life.
at all. There was actually only minimal
It was
violence.
immigration.
Right.
It was family. Like, it was showing, like, how,
What really
immigrants
occurred.
came to the
Yeah.
American dream and rising up through, and it was just what a
The
movie.
second one, too.
Second one was great,
I'm going
too.
to have to binge on that
Yeah,
today.
yeah. Second one was just as good. That's one of the only sequels that was just as good as the first.
I like the third one.
Yeah.
I know everyone talks
I
smack.
watched that with your grandfather and at JoJo's house. We watched The Godfather 3 when
Right.
it came out.
I like when Andy Garcia shoots
Yeah.
the guy and he's like, Zaza!
Yeah. Sasso.
That was cool, though, because you see, like, the involvement that the church had.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
there
got
was some...
panned. It was like people, but to me, it wasn't that. It wasn't what the first.
It's a
two were.
classic now,
but
though.
it's good. It was good, But the first two, those were untouchable.
The way his sister grew up,
yeah,
Connie.
Yep. But
And
you,
what she became and
you
how
got to
she...
see the. God, man, the number 2 was great when they went back to Sicily.
Oh, my
and,
God.
You
It
know,
kills
yeah,
Don Chicho.
Cuba. They were in Cuba. They were in Sicily. Like, it was. I mean, I've seen those movies 100 times. I could watch them at any point and enjoy watching it again. It's that good. It's just what a movie. And like you said, those you
Dominic
can't recreate that.
Chianese is the guy
Yeah.
who kills.
Yep.
What's his
Amazing.
name? The Jewish guy's name?
Oh,
Hyman Roth.
Hyman Roth.
Yeah, he's, Uncle Junior was putting in work.
Yep. What a movie that was, man. I
They
love
had
the.
every actor, every Italian actor.
I like the way your grandfather was almost an extra in there.
Yeah.
I think he had I don't know what happened, why, but they have the wedding scene in the first one was
ridiculous,
phenomenal. It's like, it was
I
just
like when
great.
they give the old man the cannoli in the third one.
Yeah.
And he like passes away up in
Yeah.
the opera box.
Yep, and they had Johnny Fontaine or something, or Fontane, like he was like a Frank Sinatra type of guy. It was just what a movie it was. And I love when they go back in the second one to like before the guy, like when Robert De Niro was the Godfather.
Was a worker.
Yeah, and he was a worker eating spaghetti in the house and
Hiding guns.
Yeah,
That was
like
the first.
I mean,
and he
just the
never asked any
lighting.
questions.
Yeah, just the lighting and the way they recreated the 20s and like that's a masterpiece of a movie.
What was the no, Don Chicho is the one that wore the white hat. I like when they're doing the puppet fight and he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Oh man.
I also like
they bring me so much joy.
on the day
I
of
don't
your
know how-
daughter's wedding.
Yeah. I like when he's got his cat.
Yeah, always at the cat.
What a power move.
Yep, just one of those movies, like you said,
Those should be
great
shot out into space.
as Goodfellas is and was
God.
great movie. It's not
The
like
Godfather,
the Godfather
is like the Odyssey.
yeah.
It'll be remembered
Right.
like that.
So that like a Citizen Kane, those just movies that are just like, they're just it's a masterwork, and it'll never be topped. So
It's the greatest movie of all time.
I think so.
I mean, I think it's recognized as that.
Yeah, it's just the lighting and the wood panel, like everything he captured. It's like, it's just perfect. It's perfect. But that was, Joe Colombo was privy to read the script, which was pretty cool. You had an actual
Don,
the father of the Colombo family, reading the script for you.
I think my favorite thing, though, is that it really took place. Like, I feel like the 70s and the mid-60s, like, the Mafia really changed.
Yes. It really changed. Well, Godfather came out in 72.
Right.
Godfather 2 came out in 74. But, like Franzisi was saying, like, that was after those movies. Then all of a sudden, guys didn't mind getting pictures taken of them, and they, because that life now went from being underground to, wow, those guys are cool. They're in the mob.
Imagine what it must have been like, though, when it was underground.
Yeah. Omerta. It was,
The 40s, the 30s.
Yeah.
And that's Godfather 1.
Yeah. Yep. You see,
right after World War II.
Yep. And they had like the early parade, and like they're in Little Italy.
Oh my
and,
God!
like,
When he whacks Don
yeah,
Chicho.
Yes. Amazing. Just
That guy was even a good actor, Don
yeah.
Chicho. Like,
Oh, it was great. It was great. And they,
He drinks the espresso.
Yes, the way they recreate that, it's like you feel like you're there. You know,
Oh.
it was just what a great movie.
Nothing like watching The Godfather in December, like
Yes,
pre-Christmas.
yes,
That's
yep.
AMC, like, blasts it.
God, that was just
Crazy.
a masterwork of a movie.
The food, like,
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, everything. It was
I like the cop when
Perfect.
he's like, "Oh, the veal's the best."
Yes, yeah. Like,
Best
think
veal in the
about how
city.
many things people quote, you know, from those movies. I made him an offer he can't refuse. Like,
Dominic
Yeah.
Chianese, though,
Yeah.
in The Sopranos,
Yes,
there's
yes.
a scene he makes
Yeah.
the best joke.
Uh-huh.
All right, nobody get offended.
right.
He
right.
goes, "What did the Chinese Godfather do at the business meeting?
What?
Made him an offer they couldn't understand." I mean, come on.
Yep.
You
yep.
gotta laugh.
Yep.
You gotta laugh a little bit.
Phenomenal.
It's so funny.
Phenomenal.
But so anyway, that was our spiel. Still haven't gotten to aliens.
We will. We will.
The tax thing was.
That was a good one today.
We had to.
I liked it.
I had to go
I
down
like
that
to.
road.
I like to. You know, little back and forth, and how can you not enjoy? We should do an episode just on mob movies, maybe what the best one was.
Well, we already know what the best
Yeah.
one was.
Well,
But we
yeah.
could talk more about it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You're not going to get an argument.
There's leave the gun, take the cannolis.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You have Luca Brasi sitting
On
there
the-
thinking
yeah.
of what he's going to sweat and
Yeah.
thinking what he's going to say to the
On
Don.
the day of your daughter's wedding.
There's the
And then-
scene when he gets choked
Yes.
out. I wonder, like, there's like a thing that looks like it's about to poke out of his cheek.
Yeah,
and
I
I
don't
always
know.
wondered if
Yeah.
that was like a toothpick that he
Yeah.
swallowed. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. He was eating something, I think, and it was just.
then that guy,
The other
he's,
guy
like, pats
drinking the
him on his
wine.
hand, just.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Yep. What a movie, man. What a movie. I could take the first one or the second one and be totally happy with watching either one of them at any time.
I agree.
I like watching them, boom, one into two. And you
It's
know,
amazing. There's not many movies that are as long as Godfather
No,
2.
no.
That's like a 6-hour movie.
Crazy.
It
Yeah.
is. I don't know how. I think there's like laws and all kinds of crazy things about.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I don't know if it's. Let me see how long that movie is actually, just before I know we can.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
It is long though. I
It
think
is
it's
very-
like
it's very
4.5,
long.
5 hours at
Yeah,
least.
Okay, how long? Which one are you talking? Both.
Two.
Of them? Okay.
One
how
is only
long?
like a regular movie.
God. Fathers. One and I think three was even long, but let me see.
They're all long.
Yeah, let me see. See if I get service here. But
Let's see.
yeah, it's taking long. I don't know.
Let
but
me see.
see if you can. But yeah, I know that two
We
was
have a
very
lot of
long.
technical difficulties here. Clearly, I'll find it for
Two
you.
two was definitely long though. That's a without a doubt. But I think one was long too.
3 hours and 22 minutes.
Number two.
Yeah.
Can you check on one?
3 is 2 hours and 50.
Yep. Because I remember when 3 came out was when VCR tapes were out, and they had 2 tapes for the movie, which was rare. You had a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah, so 2 is 3 hours and 22 minutes. That's still really long.
Yeah,
First one's 2 hours and 58.
that's still long.
So they're
Movies
pretty-
are like 2
It's like
hours.
a
yeah.
8-hour long
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. Yep. You feel like you're watching a long movie. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and it's like The Irishman was long, but it was too long. Right. It
didn't
was
like
too
it.
long, you know? It was long for the sake of being long. The Godfather, I could have watched for another 4 hours. Like it
I
was
forget
just,
who was the comedian that was speaking on watching The Irishman. It might have been Joey Diaz, and
Yeah.
he was like, "I cried, dog,
Yeah.
because you knew it was going to be the last movie
Yeah,
they ever
yeah.
gonna do." Anyway, we're signing off for now. Maybe we'll talk aliens tomorrow.
We'll talk Carlito's Way tomorrow after you see it.
All right.
Let me-
Sounds like a plan.
But we do have to get the aliens, and we have to,
They're out there.
yeah. So everybody have a great Monday.
Yeah. Watch The Godfather, why don't you? Take
Can't
care.
go wrong.